I was halfway through reviewing the transfer logs for the spring rotation when Sheriff Blake stood up in front of the Monday staff meeting and said my job was a waste of taxpayer money. "Let's cut the crap," he said, pacing like a TED Talk wannabe. "This annual out-of-state coordination thing, it's not a mission-critical operation. It's a vanity run, and we're done funding ego trips." I froze. My pen stopped mid-note. The room went quiet, real quiet. Everyone knew exactly what he was talking about. I'd been the one organizing those multi-state transport protocols for over 20 years. I built that network from nothing. It was never about ego. It was about keeping custody chains tight across borders, keeping lawsuits off our backs. Blake didn't even look at me. He kept going, louder now. "From this point on, we'll handle transfer alignment digitally. No more flights, no more hotels, no more personal handoffs. Waste of time, waste of money. We're not in the business of pampering paper pushers." Some people glanced at me, but no one said a damn thing. Not even Harris, who I trained. Not even Maria, who shadowed me last year in Colorado. They just sat there, silent, pretending to scroll through their notes. Cowards. "Before we start, how's your day going, and where are you joining from?" Blake clicked his laptop shut like he'd just closed a sale. "Taylor, my office after this. You'll take over those coordination items for the June cycle. Streamline it. Make it modern. Taylor, 22. Still calls the filing cabinet a hard copy zone." The meeting broke. People shuffled out fast, avoiding eye contact. I didn't move. Not right away. Then I stood, walked to my desk, and opened my email. Subject, flight cancellation, May 22nd. I canceled it myself. Didn't even blink. The hotel reservation, gone. Rental car, canceled. Then I forwarded everything I had. Flight details, MOU packets, handoff schedules, to Taylor. Didn't add a comment, just hit send. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the corner of the bulletin board where the old map used to hang. It was faded now, edges curled up. A pin still clung to the corner of Kansas. I knew what was coming. Not all at once, but it had come. You don't strip the foundation out from under something and expect it to stand. I powered off my monitor, locked my drawer, and walked out without saying a word. The next morning, the old state maps were gone. I came in early like always, and the first thing I noticed was the empty corkboard across from my desk. No more pins, no red yarn routes, no sticky notes showing pickup chains through Nebraska or the Baton Rouge Triangle. Instead, there was a fresh printout that said, "Leaders don't manage time. They create momentum," in bold blue Helvetica. By 9 a.m., there were 5 more like it scattered around the office. One by the break room microwave. One taped directly over the posted transfer schedules. No one said anything. But I watched them. Harris, Maria, even Ray. Reading those quotes and pretending they weren't replacing 20 years of hard data with motivational garbage. By Wednesday, Blake called another all hands. "We're moving forward with a digital-first transition," he said. "No more in-person protocol verifications. No more cross-border checkups. We're eliminating redundancy, streamlining operations, and trusting the systems we've already paid for." I didn't say a word. I sat in the back, arms crossed. No laptop, no coffee. Blake glanced at me once, just once, when he said, "We've had legacy practices that looked good on paper, but didn't translate to real-world efficiency. That era's over." That smirk. I knew it. That smug, tight-lipped look he gave after every little jab. But I didn't flinch. By Friday, I stopped asking questions. I stopped offering updates. Instead, I pulled a spare drive from my bag and started backing things up. Quietly, systematically. Old transfer schedules, scanned and archived. Archived inmate paperwork, re-indexed by date and region. Out-of-state MOUs, renamed, tagged, and saved to a mirrored folder off-network. I made sure every file had metadata. Every route was tracked. Every contact listed. No shortcuts. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. In meetings, Blake kept the pressure up. He'd say things like, "Some folks are stuck in analog mode," or "We're not building a museum here." The others laughed, some out of nerves, some because they wanted to keep their jobs. No one looked at me anymore, not directly. Then came the sticky notes. Taylor would drop them on my desk with half-written instructions like, "Need those Arkansas docs?" Or, "Remind me what dual certification means again?" I stopped answering. I wasn't here to babysit. People started noticing. "Hey," Ray asked me near the copier, "you not running point on Interstate anymore?" I kept my tone flat. Just streamlining. Since when? Since leadership got efficient. He nodded like he understood, but I could tell he didn't. Not really. The more hands-off I got, the more chaos I saw trickling in. Small things, missed deadlines. A packet marked pending that should have been certified. Emails from out-of-state partners asking for the usual pre-run confirmations. I forwarded them all to Taylor. Never added a single word. By mid-April, the protocol binder had dust on it. I left it there on purpose. No one touched it. Blake walked past it twice a day and never picked it up. I started locking my drawers every night. Not because I was afraid someone would take something, but because I wanted it clear. My records were mine. If this ship went down, I'd have proof I wasn't the one steering it. Blake rolled out another policy memo that week, something about eliminating task duplication. Taylor called it the lean era. I called it the warm-up act. People kept asking questions, but my answer never changed. Just streamlining. The following Monday, I brought in a second flash drive. Not just any flash drive, a fingerprint-encrypted one I bought after the last system breach back in 2018. Labeled it with a Sharpie in block letters, Detour Logs. Taped it beneath the underside of my desk drawer, behind a row of clipped-together training manuals no one touched anymore. I wasn't just backing up files now. I was building a damn vault. Emails, memos, calendar invites, print logs, Blake's policy changes, Taylor's half-baked notes. Every time I got looped in, I archived it. Every time I got skipped, I archived that too. I kept a spreadsheet tracking who replied, who didn't, and how long it took. The deeper I dug, the messier it got. Taylor missed the March 22nd submission for dual state verification with Missouri. I watched him scroll through Instagram while the deadline passed. The form came back blank, unsigned. He shrugged and said, "Didn't think it was urgent." I made a note. He called me into his cubicle 2 days later to ask how to spell extradition. Wait, is that like a foreign thing? Or is that just like transfers? I didn't answer, just looked at him. Then I walked out, back to my desk, and added a new tab to my tracker called Liabilities. I set calendar alerts for the major deadlines, state cert renewals, federal audits, and the June 17th transfer coordination renewal. Bright red, recurring. Couldn't miss them. What I didn't do was remind anyone else. Meanwhile, Blake strutted around like he'd invented efficiency. At the April town hall, he stood in front of the new slide deck, filled with bar graphs and buzzwords, and told the room, "This is how you cut red tape and still win." People clapped, some even smiled. I stared at the wall clock. Then he said, "And let's be honest, some of the old systems were more tradition than necessity. We're adapting now." That got another laugh. I logged the quote when I got back to my desk. Quick note, while you're listening, tell us which country you're watching from. By mid-May, my inbox was quiet, but not in a good way. The folks I used to hear from weekly at the Federal Coordination Office? Silent. No follow-ups, no joint checklists, no shared prep drives. I knew what that meant. They weren't ignoring me. They'd been told I was no longer point of contact. They were waiting for Taylor. Poor bastards. I forwarded the silence to myself and logged it under external drop-offs. It was a long list. Meanwhile, Taylor spent most of his time trying to figure out which forms needed initials versus full signatures. He'd leave packets on my desk with Post-its that said things like, "Pretty sure this goes to Atlanta," or "Can I just email this without the stamp?" Every time, I'd peel off the note, scan the doc, archive the version without the required fields, filled in, then slide it into the drawer without comment. I was done cleaning up behind children. I pulled the old binders out one by one. Everything pre-2020, all the stuff built on real-world experience. Scanned, tagged, backed up, labeled each year as its own folder, cross-referenced with regions. I even backed up every FedEx receipt we'd ever used for out-of-jurisdiction package runs. Blake walked past one afternoon and said, "Cleaning house?" I didn't even look up. "Just keeping things tidy." He smirked like he'd won something, walked off without another word. But I kept going, every day, a little deeper. Every policy I used to enforce, every route I'd personally verified, every loophole I'd patched in the system, I documented it, not for them, not even for me. But because I knew what was coming, the date was already set and no one else was ready. June hit like a clock ticking straight into a minefield. Every morning, I opened Outlook and stared at the date. June 3rd, June 4th, June 5th. That June 17th transfer certification was coming like a freight train. and no one seemed to hear it but me. Taylor still hadn't sent the pre-authorization packet. I checked the shared folders, empty. I checked the tracker I'd built just for this deadline, nothing. 0 uploads, no confirmation receipt from the FCO, no flagged updates, no contact logged. It was dead quiet, and I couldn't touch it. Blake had removed my credential access back in May, quietly through an internal role reclass. IT confirmed it with a straight face. You've been reassigned, sheriff's directive. So it was Taylor's job now, fully. I kept my hands off. That Monday, I got the federal reminder. Subject line, action required, final renewal. Deadline approaching, June 17. Big red, urgent tag. Addressed to me, but it had Taylor CC'd. I didn't reply. I just forwarded it to his inbox, added nothing, and archived it to a new folder. Countdown failures. Wednesday morning, Maria stopped by my desk and asked, "Didn't we used to send the pre-cert packet already by this point?" I looked her dead in the eye. "We did, but not this year." She blinked. "So it's late? Not my job anymore." Taylor wasn't even in the building. Took Friday through Tuesday off for a wellness weekend. Said he'd be out of cell range, left a status update on Slack with a smiley face. I didn't smile. I pulled out a new USB from the drawer, encrypted it like the last one, and labeled it in fresh Sharpie. For when it blows up, I made a mirror of everything. Emails, schedules, calendar logs, even Slack messages, screen captures, time-stamped. I backed it all up twice. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Blake walked past on Thursday, whistling. No pressure in his voice, no urgency. Just a man convinced he'd beat the system he didn't understand. At 4:43 p.m., I opened a blank Word doc. Top left corner, I typed, "To whom it may concern. Effective immediately, I resign from my position." I stopped there, didn't finish it, didn't date it, didn't sign, just saved it. Gave it a bland file name, exit plan, final.x. Then I minimized the window and watched the clock strike 5. They thought they were sailing. They didn't know the deadline was the iceberg. I got in at 7:58 and logged into the system like I always did, out of habit. I wasn't expecting anything. My credentials couldn't authorize inmate moves anymore. I just liked watching. By 8:12, Central Dispatch flagged the first block. "Authorization error," one of the comms officers said. "ID won't validate." Blake brushed past my desk with a coffee and said, "Probably a bad link. Tell him to reboot." By 8:25, there were 4 more entries stalled. 2 from Texas, 1 from Iowa, and 1 from Kentucky, all flagged non-verified. Transfer IDs invalid, inmate chain broken. The comms line buzzed. Maria picked up. "Yeah, I'm looking at it now." "No, it's not a firewall thing." "No, we didn't update anything on our end." "Okay, I'll escalate." She turned in her chair, eyes wide. "Something's not syncing. The federal side's rejecting our codes." Blake walked into dispatch and waved a hand. "Probably a glitch in the credential cache. IT will sort it out. Just keep the request on standby." They didn't sort it out. By 9:02, flagged inmates were sitting and holding. Transport ready, officers on site, vehicles waiting. And the system was deadlocked. No authorization, no clearance. One officer came into the hallway near dispatch and asked, "Why the hell can't we move Carter to Missouri? We've got 3 officers in a van wasting hours here." Blake came out of his office, faking calm. "We're looking into a back-end issue with the authorization feed. Could be a sync delay from the feds." I sipped my coffee and pretended to scroll through old inventory logs. Someone in the corner whispered, "Didn't we need that transfer cert done last week?" Another voice answered, "I thought Taylor was on that." Taylor wasn't even in yet. He rolled in around 9:45 with a smoothie and a wrinkled hoodie. When he realized what was going on, his face dropped. "I thought that form was automated," he said. No one answered him. Quick note, while you're listening, tell us which country you're watching from. By noon, Blake had called IT 3 times and still didn't have access to the federal portal. Every credential ping returned the same error. No valid authorization on file for June 17th. Cycle expired. Then came the fines. Each failed transfer triggered an automatic penalty under the state-federal custody agreement, $10,000 per delay. By 2:30 p.m., we were at 12 delays. I heard dispatch muttering about it first. Then Maria slammed her headset down and said, "They're not bluffing. They're logging penalties already." Ray stood up from his desk. We've got inmates with court deadlines sitting in limbo. This is gonna fall back on us. Still, no one looked at me. I leaned back in my chair and flipped open my legal pad. I made a new line on the running log I'd been keeping since February, June 17th. Cert lapse confirmed. Inmate stalls X12, fines accruing. Blake came out of his office looking paler than usual. This is just temporary, he said to no one in particular. The system needs time to reset. A younger deputy snapped, "The system didn't reset. It expired. You never recertified it." Blake stared like he didn't hear him, then turned and walked back into his office without another word. I watched the door close. The room got quiet. On screen, another transfer pinged red, then another, and another. I didn't move. I didn't speak. But I knew. This was just the start. Tuesday started ugly and went straight to hell before lunch. By 8:07, two nearby counties had escalated, Benton and Travis. Both called dispatch within minutes of each other. Different cases, same problem. Their drivers had been turned away at out-of-state intake centers. The receiving jails wouldn't accept the inmates. No valid custody transfer IDs, no cleared authorizations, no paperwork. One call from Benton came through on speaker. "You're putting us in legal exposure. This isn't just an inconvenience. It's a custody breach." Maria looked sick. Dispatch tried resubmitting the transfer forms. No dice. The system was locked. One of the new comms kids tried copying the forms into a different field, hoping to trick the automation. It flagged him out of the system for suspicious activity. I kept my screen open, but didn't touch a thing. At 9:15, Blake walked in, already red-faced. "Get me IT again. This is unacceptable." Ray spun in his chair. "They said it's not their end. It's the FCO. We're locked out, man." "This thing's official." Blake straightened his tie, which was pointless. He was wearing a quarter zip. "Then call them directly. They can override it." "They can't," Maria said. "They issued a non-compliance freeze. Across state lines." Blake's mouth opened, then closed. That hit hard. A freeze was the nuclear option, the equivalent of having your license suspended. No agency could move an inmate in or out without clearance. No exceptions. The phones started ringing. Judges' chambers, courthouse clerks. One of the calls came in mid-volume. "We had a sentencing on the books for noon. Why is the defendant still in a van halfway to Tulsa?" Blake tried playing it cool. "We're working through some legacy system complications. The old process was clunky. We're catching up to it now." I could almost laugh. He was scrambling, and everyone saw it. Someone asked, "Who's actually responsible for the cert filing this year?" Blake hesitated. His eyes scanned the room, like he wasn't sure if throwing Taylor under the bus would make him look better or worse. He didn't answer. "Quick note, before we go further, tell us which country you're watching from." At 10:42, I got a Slack ping from Taylor. First time he'd messaged me directly in over a month. "Hey, can you help? Everything's broken. IDK what to tell people." I didn't answer right away. I opened the detour logs backup, found the exact email Blake had sent to HR, and CC'd me on back in May. The one with the line, "All inmate transfer duties are now reassigned to Taylor W. Do not route further responsibilities to Miss La." I forwarded it to Taylor. No subject line, no explanation, no emotion. 30 seconds later, I heard a loud slam. Blake's office door. The whole room froze. No one said a word. The judges kept calling. The fines kept stacking. A few transport officers walked into dispatch with the look you only see after someone gets left holding the bag. One of them asked if they should start logging which inmates were now considered temporarily unassigned. That's not a phrase you ever want in a corrections report. Blake didn't come out of his office again. Not that day. But I stayed at my desk, watching, waiting. By Thursday morning, the fine total hit $2.1 million. I heard it from Maria first. She read it off the new email from the FCO like it was a death sentence. Current accrual, $2,150,000. Penalty structure escalating by 12-hour intervals. No one made eye contact. The room was dead silent, except for the tapping of keyboards and the occasional nervous throat clear. Taylor didn't show up at all. Blake hadn't left his office since Tuesday. The lights in there stayed on, but nobody knocked. I opened a fresh folder on my desktop and started dragging files into it. Subject, June fallout, supporting docs. Every warning I'd sent, every MOU he ignored, every single shift in policy, logged by date and signature, emails from the FCO, archived meeting invites, timestamps of Taylor's missed deadlines, Slack messages asking for clarity, never answered. I pulled them into a timeline, lined up like dominoes. March 14th, access removed April 3rd, pre-cert reminder, ignored May 12th, confirmation still not filed June 17th, system locks, everything Blake had buried, I brought to the surface. At 11:26, another bomb dropped. The Colorado Department of Corrections, the biggest partner we had for multi-state transport, sent a formal notice. Pending immediate resolution, CDOC is re-evaluating our continued agreement with your office. Ray read it out loud from his screen and let out a quiet, shit. Now it wasn't just us bleeding money, it was our credibility on life support. That's when the flip started. The same people who'd looked away during that staff meeting in March suddenly found their voices. I always said it was risky cutting those protocol checks. None of this would have happened if we'd just stuck to the old system. Didn't she warn them like months ago? They didn't say my name, but they glanced at me like we were all on the same team again. I didn't respond. I didn't nod or speak or blink. I just sat at my desk and watched. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. At exactly noon, I reached under my drawer and pulled out the folder I'd stashed there back in April. Manila, no label. Inside was a clean printed timeline, color-coded tabs, backup copies of every critical policy memo, Blake's realignment plan, the stripped credentials order, Taylor's Slack messages, the FCO escalation warnings, printed and highlighted. I laid the folder flat on my desk and opened it just enough to see the first page. Then I left it there. Didn't wave it around. Didn't announce it. Just let the weight of it sit in the open, in plain sight. Maria noticed first. Her eyes flicked to the corner of my desk, then back to her screen. By the time Blake finally opened his door, 1:13 p.m., half the office already knew that I wasn't panicking, because I didn't need to. I had every receipt. At 2:30 sharp, they called me upstairs. Conference room B, glass walls, leather chairs. I hadn't set foot in there since the old warden retired. Blake was already inside, pacing like a man who knew the trap was closing, but thought he still had time to talk his way out of it. The state corrections commissioner sat dead center, suit, folder, 2 phones, and a legal team to either side. Next to him was a CEO type from the compliance division. Cold face, polished shoes, not here for conversation. I took the seat across from Blake, said nothing. The CEO spoke first. We're here to address the breach of protocol resulting in over $2 million in federal penalties and an active license freeze on your multi-jurisdictional transfer authority. He read it straight off a printed notice, official, sharp. No tone, no room for argument. Blake jumped in before the man even finished. Let me first say, we inherited an outdated, bloated system. When I stepped in, the goal was modernization, streamlining, digital first. We had some resistance to change internally and some early-stage confusion on who was assigned what. He shot a glance at me like I was supposed to flinch. I didn't move. The commissioner leaned forward. Who was in charge of certifying the June cycle? Blake hesitated. It was intended to be a team effort. The CEO didn't blink. We've reviewed the emails. The assignment was clear. I delegated the responsibility, Blake said, now sweating. But there was no malicious intent. Just a breakdown in communication. Something slipped through the cracks. $2 million slipped through the cracks, the commissioner said. Blake started to speak again, but I was already turning my laptop around. No theatrics, no speech. Just the screen, facing them. Open folder, June fallout, supporting docs. I clicked twice. Timeline opened. Every doc sorted, labeled, dated, verified. Every action taken, I said, or ignored. Every assignment, reassignment, and message, including the removal of my access on March 14th and the exact moment the federal certification expired. The room went silent, completely. No one touched their water bottles. No one looked at Blake. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The commissioner scrolled through the digital timeline on the screen, lips pressed tight. The CEO didn't speak. He just tilted the monitor slightly toward himself and kept reading. 3 minutes passed like hours. Then the CEO closed the laptop and looked directly at Blake. This isn't a matter of confusion, he said. This is willful negligence, documented by someone who clearly understood the stakes. Blake's jaw flexed. That's not... Look, I was misled. I was told... Sheriff, the commissioner cut in. You're done. Blake blinked. Excuse me? Your authority's revoked, effective immediately. The door opened behind him. Two internal affairs agents stepped in. Blake stood frozen, his hands half lifted like he couldn't decide if he should protest or pack up. Wait, no one told me. Let's go, one of the agents said. Calm, firm. Blake didn't fight, just turned and walked out between them, shoulders slumped, face blank. Nobody clapped, nobody nodded, nobody even looked at each other. Just silence. Like the air had been sucked out of the room. I shut my laptop and stood. No one told me to take over. They didn't have to. They called me into the commissioner's office that same afternoon. Just him and the head of legal sitting across from me with tight smiles and folders already open. We'd like to formally offer you reinstatement, the commissioner said. Full authority, your previous title, with oversight control, plus back pay from March and a signing bonus for assuming interim command. I said nothing, just pulled out the envelope from my bag and slid it across the table. He looked confused, opened it, read it. Notarized resignation, effective immediately. Legal shifted in his chair. You don't want to stay? This is your system. You saved it. No, I said. I kept the receipts. There's a difference. The commissioner nodded slowly. You're sure? I stood, dead sure. They didn't try to stop me. I walked out past the bullpen without a word, past the stairs, past the fake busy work and nervous glances and half-baked guilt from people who'd spent the last 3 months trying to survive my silence. Not my problem anymore. I left my badge and laptop at the front desk and stepped out into the heat. No ceremony, no goodbye lunch, nothing. At the airport, I didn't rush. No gate changes, no delays. Just a one-way flight to Arizona. My name, my seat, my rules. Quick note, before we finish, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. By dusk, I was halfway between Phoenix and nowhere, sipping black coffee in a roadside diner with cracked vinyl booths and dust on the blinds. The kind of place that didn't ask questions. I had no bags but my purse, no work phone, no files, just peace. Then the phone buzzed once, low and quiet on the table. New alert. Fines now exceed $2.5 million. I smiled, didn't tap it, didn't read further. Just looked out the window, took another sip, and let it go. I never looked back.